What's up, guys? Justin here with the SketchUpEssentials.com. Back with another SketchUp modeling tutorial for you. In this one, I'm going to go ahead and model something a little bit different. I don't know how many of you are into video games or anything like that, but this is a sword from one of those video games, and one of those things. This is actually from the upcoming Zelda Breath of the Wild game. And one of the things that I kind of want to do with this channel is I want to kind of try modeling some things that I'm not necessarily 100% sure that I can do, and just kind of like branch out and use this as something that kind of increases my modeling skill as well. So what I've done is I've come in here and I've taken a screen capture of the sword from a video on YouTube, and so I'm going to bring this in as an image. So to do that, you just go to File, Import, make sure Image is selected, and just double click on it. And then you can click and just size this and bring it in and model off of it. So probably we can go ahead and get this at least kind of close to some kind of scale. So let's say the width is probably 3 feet, so close enough. And when you're bringing that in, you can see that image size in the lower right hand corner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off and just draw a kind of a canvas, like a box in here. So I'm just going to get the general shape of the sword kind of modeled out. So to start off, I'm just going to draw a box here, and then I'm going to draw an arc from the point right over to here. And so one thing I may want to do once I've kind of done that, because some of this is actually a little black, is maybe move this back just to make this kind of work. Okay, so and then I'm going to use the move tool to create a copy of that and just reverse that in place using the scale tool, and then move it back in order to get my face right here. And probably when I move that back, I just didn't quite, no, I did have the point in there. So sometimes what you're going to have to do, I'm just going to undo that and just do it with the point. And then I'll just move this line sideways like this so that they match. And then I'll just draw a line right across here, and then I'll erase it. So I have kind of a smooth, uninterrupted face for my blade right here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep detailing out a flat version of this sword. So I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to use the arc tool and the other tools to just kind of create a flat profile for this sword. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use the push-pull tool to extrude it. So once we've created kind of a general shape that we like, we're going to take these objects, and you'll notice I'm doing a lot of mirroring in here, and the reason is that way I don't have to try to draw something twice. I just have to draw it once, make a copy, and then mirror it, and that'll pretty much guarantee that this whole thing is going to be symmetrical. So, and the other thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to size this so everything kind of makes sense. So now that we've got kind of a general shape of our sword, we're just going to push-pull it to give it some depth, just kind of like this. So go ahead and push-pull this piece right here, and then what you're going to do is you're going to select this top face. You can double-click on it, and then just tap that S key to activate the scale tool, and we're going to uniformly scale it in like this. And to uniformly scale, just hold that control key. If you don't do it uniform, you can see it only stretches it one way. If you hold the control key, then it'll sketch it, or it'll scale it uniformly, just like this. So you're going to go ahead and just do that to give our sword some kind of like, just so that it goes in a little bit. I may actually move this down just a little because I don't like how thick that was. And then what we're going to do after we've kind of scaled this in is we're just going to select these two lines right here, and we're just going to scale this in a little bit. So what that gives us is kind of that gradual taper that goes on the tip of a sword, just like that. And once you've done that, you're just going to select it and make it a component and just call it sword blade or something like that. And the reason we're making that a component is a little bit later we're going to come in here and we're going to mirror everything on the other side. So we're just going to create a copy just like I've been doing in general. We're going to flip it and we'll just put it on the other side so that it has kind of a complete shape. But for now, we're just going to draw one side of it and then we'll mirror it. So honestly, this piece right here, so first of all, make sure this is all in a group or else you're going to get some crazy merging geometry. But honestly, this piece right here was the scariest piece for me because you can see this has kind of these ridges and grooves in here, and it actually took me a while to figure out the best way to do this. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to hide this sword blade so we can get in here and see where we're working. Then we're going to use the arc tool. So just tap that A key and you're just going to draw multiple different arcs in here. So set the 2 points the same each time and just adjust the bulge on it each time so that you can come in here, and I think you're probably going to end up drawing 5 or 6 different pieces in here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you've got 5 different pieces here, and then once we've got this drawn, you can unhide your sword blade. And what you're going to do is just use the push-pull tool by tapping that P key and extrude this to this thickness right here. So you're going to push-pull it so it's as thick as the blade. And then what you can do, the cool thing about the push-pull tool is if you come in here and double-click on each one of these, it'll extrude each one of these exactly the same length as the last one you extruded. So what that gives us is this kind of thickened shape with a whole bunch of arches on it. And so the first thing I tried on this, honestly, is I tried to use the move tool to create kind of this ridged look, and it wasn't working. And the reason the move tool didn't work is because every one of these points or every one of these lines shares the same kind of endpoint right here. So whenever I move this line up and down, it moves all of these lines because I'm moving these points. And so what I ended up doing is coming in here and locking the rotate tool to the red axis just like this. So tap Q, tap your right arrow key to lock it to the red axis, click on this point, and then you're going to click out like this, and you're just going to rotate this down a couple degrees. So probably in this case you're going to go down, let's say, just 3 degrees, because what we're trying to do, and we may end up changing this later, but what we're trying to do is just kind of create this up ridge and this down ridge, kind of like what it shows in this image. So do the same thing for this second point right here. Just come out, go down, type in 3 degrees again, and then we'll do the same thing for this last one. So rotate this down about 3 degrees. And you can kind of see what that does is that creates this kind of grooved up and down shape in here. So, and I haven't quite figured out, I would like to taper this backside off a little bit, but I'm not 100% sure how to do that. So for now, I'm just going to kind of leave this the way that it is. So I'm just going to drag a box across it, and I'm just going to say make component. And we'll just call this hilt piece number 1. So now you've got a component in here that kind of makes up your hilt piece, and you can come in here with the scale tool and adjust this a little bit just so that it kind of fits with this piece. We're going to put kind of a decorative piece over here later, so it may end up not mattering. But once you've done that, you can just come in here and hide it, and then you're going to create kind of the same thing over here. So you're just going to use the arc tool and just come in here and create a few arcs that just kind of follow the general shape that you've got right here. So create a couple arcs and then draw some lines across it like this. And this is probably going to be hidden anyway. So you see how we just kind of created our general outline here. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to delete this face out. And what you're going to do now is you're going to do the same kind of thing where you come in here and first of all, you can start off and just divide this line into 3 segments just like this, and you can also divide this line into 3 segments, and that way you have something to kind of draw your arcs off of. So you're going to come in here and you're just going to draw an arc here and an arc here that just kind of follows this curve. And then what we're going to do Actually, let's go ahead and extrude these. So just use the push-pull tool to extrude these to the same thickness as your hilt again. And do the same thing where you come in here and you double-click on these. And I'm going to reverse these faces just so the correct face is facing out. So now what we're going to do is we're going to draw arcs that follow the same general shape in kind of the middle of each one of these. So just like this, just use the midpoints to draw some arcs. And then what we're going to do is we're going to select those 3 lines and use the move tool to move them down. So you see how when I move this down, it creates that kind of like ridged look, kind of like we had before. So you've got kind of this ridged look going on. Now that being said, make sure you start with the end pieces. So actually you want these 4 lines. So basically what we did is we put these center lines in here to hold the face up so that when we move this down like this, and you can tap the up key on your keyboard to lock to that blue axis, but now when we move this down, you see how it creates this taper along each one of these because these lines stay in place. So we've just kind of got we've got kind of a curved face right here, but it's got these ridges in it as well. And so next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to come in here and just drag a mouse across that and make that a component, and we can call this hilt piece number 2 or whatever you want to call it. And now we're going to make a copy of that. And remember, the nice thing about making this a component is if we make any changes to this one will change as well. But we can go ahead and use the scale tool to flip that. So it's at it's basically at 180 degrees from where it was before. And one thing I try to mention every time that I talk about this is you need to come in here and make sure that you're saving your model so that you don't lose a whole lot of your work if your model crashes or anything like that. It does happen sometimes. So I'm just going to move this piece back in here, and then I'm going to go ahead and unhide the geometry that I hid before, just like this. And then I'm going to take this piece and just kind of move it back so that it's actually hidden inside this face. So probably use your inference locking is the best way to do that. So now what you've got is you've got your hilt. You've got your kind of decorative hilt piece just like this. And I realize that, whoops, I realize that this may not be exactly the same as the way this image works, but one of the things I've kind of learned in SketchUp is sometimes you just have to be okay with not being 100% exact all the time. So just come in here and do the best that you can, and then you know, if there's something you can't figure out, you know, try your best, be willing to ask some questions to some people that have done stuff like this before, and then just keep going. But anyway, I'm going to take these 3 pieces and I'm just going to group them just like this. So I'm just going to right click and I'm going to say make group. So now I'm kind of done with this particular hilt piece. So now what I'm going to do is, you see how we've got this kind of like curved pommel piece like this? So what we're going to do is we're just going to draw, we're going to start with our midpoint right here, and we're just going to draw the profile of this. So start off and draw yourself kind of a flat canvas just like this. Actually, since we're drawing on an image, you don't even need to do that. But basically what you're going to do is you're just going to trace this, and what we're going to do is use the we're going to use the follow me tool to rotate this in a circle. So you're creating kind of this curved pommel piece just like this, and you see how we have a profile now? So now what we're going to do is just going to come in here and draw like a quick guide circle. So you can draw it over here. The nice thing about the follow me tool is it doesn't have to be touching a face in order for you to use it. But then you're just going to select the perimeter of this circle, and then you're going to activate the follow me tool on this piece. So you're going to click on it like this, and you see what it does is it extrudes that along this entire shape right here. So it takes it and extrudes it in a circle, creating this rounded pommel piece. So now what we're going to do is use the push-pull tool to extrude this piece down here. And actually, I'm going to see if welding this. Still no. Okay. What if we draw a circle right here? If you see what I'm getting here is I'm getting a whole lot of lines on this face that I don't really want. So I'm wondering if I can draw a circle along this face kind of in the center. Just like this to give me a smooth... There we go. You see how it doesn't draw lines along that pommel the same way? So the way that was before, this had been kind of exploded into a whole bunch of different segments, and so when I pulled it, it was creating this as a whole bunch of separate faces, and that wasn't really what I wanted. And so, good deal. All right, so now we've got kind of our pommel extruded right here, and now what we're going to do, first of all, we're going to take this piece and we're going to just make it a group, and it doesn't have to be a component in this case because we're not going to repeat it at all. But now what we're going to do is we're going to come in here and we're going to draw this kind of decorative pommel piece. So if I hide this geometry, you can see this has this really cool like decorative like wrapping on it. So we're going to draw that in here now. And so the way that we're going to do that is, first of all, I'm going to use the divide function to break this up into spaces. So there we go. So if you can see what I did is I selected this circle right here and I used the move tool to create a copy, but then I hit divided by 5 or 6. And so what that did is that created 6 equally spaced copies between this point and this point. So you can use the move tool not only to create multiple copies moving forward, but also kind of dividing that. And so the reason that I did that is because I'm figuring this is about where each one of these wraps stops on the pommel, just like this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to click View and click Hidden Geometry. And you can see when I did Hidden Geometry, what that did is that turned on all the hidden parts and pieces on this pommel. And so the reason that I did that is because I'm going to come in here and do the same thing and divide this by, I created 10 copies in here, but basically what I'm doing is I'm creating pieces on this face that I can use to come around and model along. So when you use the hidden geometry, if you go from point to point here, that doesn't show up on a face, but if I draw something here, you see how you're drawing along a point? And when you do that, that allows you to come in here and create things on a surface really easily. And so, let's see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I have 10 pieces, and so what I want to do is I want to draw a line from here to here along these 10 pieces so that I can go ahead and model my decorative piece, and I'll just kind of show you what I'm talking about. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so it took 6 pieces to get over here, and that's okay. So what we're going to do, and actually the last piece here, I'm just going to draw this more to the midpoint, just so everything kind of closes off okay, and I'll show you what I'm doing. So basically what I'm doing is I'm creating a path that runs along this face, and then I'm coming through and I'm selecting it. And when I do that, and let me pull a point just for reference. So when I do that, all right, so that's a 16th. Okay, so when I do that, that gives me a point to then come in here and use the pipe along path piece right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create a pipe along this that's going to act as my kind of decorative wrap piece. So you can see what that does is I told it to create a 1/16 radius pipe along that line. And so now what I can do, because I have a piece in here that I can work with now, is I can create a copy of this using the move tool off to the side. And then I can scale it. So I can scale it so that it's flipped. And then I can move it back to where it was before along that red axis. And by doing that, I can create this kind of wrap along face. And these points don't need to meet exactly because we're not going to get that close in on our detail here. So then what we can do is we can group these two objects like this. We can call it make group, and we could probably call it make component actually. So we'll just call it pommel wrap piece. And so what we'll do is we'll create another copy off to the side and flip it like this. Probably the best thing to do is to pull one of these points, so probably right where these intersect, because we're going to move it back into place on our face here, and then we're going to move it down so that it meets up just like this. And so what that does is it creates a complete wrap of our pommel. And then we can come in here and we can group this, and then we can make multiple copies of it. So probably what you're going to want to do, you can come in here and you can just kind of move these down so that they match using copy mode with the move tool, and then just type in times. It didn't like that. All right, we're going to try this again. So you're going to move this down using copy mode. Once you've moved it, type in ×3 or ×4. And as long as this is close, we're going to be okay. Because what we're going to do now is we're going to come in here and we're going to select all of these groups. Whoops. So if you come in, you select all of these groups and you click make group, then you can use the scale tool to kind of resize this so that it meets right on the end here. And you know, the other thing that you can do is if for whatever reason when you scale it, it kind of merges this with this face, you can just scale it out just a little bit so that you can make sure these are running along the face. And don't worry if they're not on here exactly, like there's a little bit of gap there or whatever, it's no big deal because we're not going to look that close at this. This is just something that's going to work in the background to kind of create the whole sword shape basically. So now we've got that in here. You can go ahead and select all of this actually and just put it in a group. So just come in here, click make group. Actually, you know what? I wouldn't do that yet. So next thing you're going to do is do the same thing we did before where you draw the profile of this pommel. So just come in here and kind of trace along the pommel. Just like this. You can put a little straight line in here. You can arc it down, just so we can do the same thing with the follow me tool that we did before, where we rotate this along a circle to create our pommel shape. So draw a little line here, a little line here, and then you can probably just draw a little straight line here. And then come across here to... The one thing you want to make sure you do is that you center that along this this pommel right here. So if I hide my image, there we go. We've got a little piece that isn't working right there. Okay, so if you're ever having trouble seeing something in your image, you can come in there and hide it and then unhide it just like that. And then the last thing we're going to do is just create our circle out here to give us that path to extrude along. So select that path, activate the follow me tool, and then extrude that in a circle just like this. And you can come in here and reverse the faces so that works. And so now you can come in here, you can turn off your hidden geometry. So now is a good time to come in here, take a look, and just kind of do some housekeeping. I'm going to create a copy of this image over here just so I can look at it. But just kind of make sure that everything looks the way that you want it to look. Like, for example, I need to come in here and model this little diamond that runs across the face. So we'll go ahead and do that. So to to draw that diamond, I like to go ahead and draw it on the face of the sword right here, or just start it off on the face of the sword. Just makes it a little bit easier. So just come in here, and what you're going to do is you're going to create kind of a rectangle shape. So you can hide this for right now. But basically what you want to do is just come in here and just draw. We'll put this in a group and hide it as well. That's the nice thing about groups, is they make it really easy to turn on and off your visibilities in your model. So just come in here and draw a line from point to point like this. And the way that we're going to do this is we're going to use a rectangle. So draw a rectangle, and then you can come in here and you can move these lines if you want, or you can just draw a rectangle if you know what the size is. But the way that we're going to do this is, you see how we created this rectangle shape. Now all we have to do is just draw lines from midpoint to midpoint to midpoint, just like this, and then we can erase these perimeter pieces. That'll give us our kind of our gem shape. And then you can take that gem, you can push pull it, double click to select the face, and just kind of come in here and just scale that top to give it this kind of scaled in look. And then you can use the offset tool. You can push it one more time and then just scale it again. It gives it that kind of cool 3D shape. And then come in here, right click, click make group. So now I think, oh, one more thing. It's going to be really important. So one more thing that we're going to do is we're just going to come in here and we're going to draw this logo that goes right across the middle here. So as you can see in this image here, there's a little inlaid logo right here. And so you can just kind of draw your guide point up to about here. It doesn't have to be exact. And then what you can do is you can use the circle tool. I'm going to go ahead and draw this to the middle of where I want this to be, but you can use the circle tool. So type C and then type in 3. That'll set your circle tool to draw a 3-sided shape. So you can use the circle tool the same way you can use the polygon tool. You see how it says sides in the corner? You can type in the number of sides. So if you wanted a smooth circle, you could do 24 sides, but you can go all the way down to 3. So basically this is drawing a 3-sided circle in the way that SketchUp looks at it, or we consider it more of a triangle. So you can come in here and just use that to create this triangle. And actually you probably need to be in this group in order to do that, but we can go ahead and do that. So we'll undo that, just double click in this group, and then draw our 3-sided circle in there just like that. And the reason that it's important that we do that inside the group is we're going to use this. Whoops. I'm just going to erase this guideline now, just so it's not in here messing everything up. So just draw lines from the midpoint just like this. So then you have this Triforce logo right here, and then you can move it forward a little bit just to make sure that it's centered. And then what we're going to do is we're going to offset this just a little bit. And I'm actually going to try coming in here with the multiple offsets tool. So this is probably 1/16 to the inside. See, the multiple offset tool allows you to offset multiple faces at once. So you can just come in here, you probably... The only thing I don't like about that is it's a little off from the outside to the inside, but I think it's going to be okay for what we're trying to do. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take this this face and we're just going to inlay it just a little bit to give it kind of this 3D interest type thing. So interesting. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to explode this and I'm going to move this out. I'm going to offset the outside by a 1/16. So that way, now when I come in here and I erase all these pieces, this is all uniform. So yeah, that's a good way to do that. So then you can come in here, you can push-pull this just a little bit, just enough to give it a little bit of interest in here, like it's inlaid in the blade. So now come back out here and unhide all. And so basically what we have here now is we have our sword image pretty much done, unless you come down here. Interesting. So I've got some leftover geometry from something, so we'll just come in here and erase that. I can actually hide this. That's probably the best way to do that. Come in here, select these pieces. Just select them like this. Then we can come out here and unhide everything. So now what we have is we've got this sword blade that's almost done. The only thing we need to do now, let's go in here and erase this guideline. So the only thing we need to do now is we need to make sure that we put our stuff on the reverse side as well. So in order to do that, probably what we're going to want to do is I'm going to go ahead and group all of these and then just use the move tool to make a copy. And remember, just with the move tool, tap the control key to activate move mode. And then we're just going to scale this to -1, just like this. So we're just flipping it over basically. And then you could just move it straight up along the blue axis so that now you've got this. You've got it all good on both sides. And the other thing we're going to want to do, and I should have paid attention to this earlier, is just kind of move this gem forward a little bit so that it's not, except for this little piece right here, it's not intersecting with our geometry over here. We're going to have to do the same thing on this backside because I didn't make it a component. Consider making the stuff on the backside a component, just so if you change it on one side, it'll change on the other. And then the very last thing we're going to do before we get into materials, and we don't have to do materials, but the very last thing we're going to do for now is we're just going to copy this scroll, or this this pommel wrap. So do the same thing we've been doing, where you move it straight down, flip it 100 or scale it 180 degrees, and then come in here and make sure your points are in here right. And all you really want to do is just make sure you can see this on all different sides of your pommel, just like that. And so now we basically have our sword complete and modeled. So it's 360 degrees, complete, and all that. And what you can do, you can come in here, you can color it up, or you can not color it up. You can kind of do whatever you want with this piece now. I'm just trying to teach you the general principles that you need in order to do something like this. So if you like this video, make sure you click that like button down below. I know it's a little longer, a little more in depth, but I just kind of wanted to push myself a little bit, see if I could learn how to do something that I didn't think that I could do, and kind of go from there. So if you like this kind of video, click that like button. Make sure you click that subscribe button as well. I'm coming out with new SketchUp stuff every week. I'd love to have you along for the ride on that. And finally, if you're really enjoying this stuff, consider backing me on Patreon. You know, I do a lot of SketchUp videos. I do a lot of stuff with plugins and stuff like that, and those aren't always free. And you know, I mean, any little bit, even if it's like $1 a month, it really helped me out. I just want to keep bringing good stuff to you guys. So in any case, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this, and I will catch you in the next video. Thank you for watching.